Hey guys, Joe Sidoti, thanks for tuning in to another video. This video is all about deciding when you should compress and when you should use automation. Let's get into it. So this is a question I get asked a lot. Should I compress something so that I can find its spot in the mix and that way I can just leave it alone, or should I use automation? I think the answer is, it's complicated. Let's look at some reasons why you would use compression and or why you would use automation. And I'm gonna hopefully give you enough information that you can then use your best judgment when you're mixing your songs and decide, does this thing need compression? Does it need automation? Or does it need both? First things first, compression can and should be used to control dynamics, but most of the time, I'm choosing a compressor or using a compressor in the first place because of the tonal characteristics that it adds. I know that I want, let's say, a vocal to have a certain attack, a certain attitude. I know that I can put it through a Blueface 1176 and it's gonna give me that presence and that attack and that attitude that I want. I know that if I want a smooth, warmer vocal, that I might go with, say, an LA2A. I'll go to a compressor, not necessarily because it's got too much dynamics, but because I know that that piece of gear or that software, that plugin will tame it and give it characteristics that I'm looking for. So let's say that you've got a vocal and it already is compressed and you're still finding a hard time getting it to sit right in the mix. In that situation, you probably should automate. And that's just because sometimes what makes a song sound great is that it lives and it breathes and that it's not just like this squashed, loud, one size fits all mix. So yeah, you would maybe compress it, like I said, to get the characteristics and the tonality of that compressor, but maybe you don't want to compress it so hard that it changes the breaths and the S's are now a problem and all that sort of stuff that can happen when you really start to slam a vocal. Then I would certainly use automation. I would kind of find, the median spot where it sounds right in the mix, and then based off of that, whether it be, that maybe be a chorus or the bridge, then as far as compared to that, on the other parts, is it too loud or is it too quiet? And then I would automate that. So so that's kind of a hybrid. Does that make sense? Here's another example. Let's say you've got an electric guitar solo. It is got some quiet parts with some, wiggly sustain stuff, and it's got some really loud shredding parts. And so it's definitely too dynamic, let's just say for argument's sake. So the first thing that I would do is I would reach for a compressor and I would really try to tame that. If I were to just try to use automation and bring up the quiet parts and bring down the loud parts, it won't do the same thing that a compressor does to the sustain of those notes. So these little nuances you might not ever even hear because there's other things going on in the mix. So in this situation, for that nuanced guitar solo, I would definitely use a lot of compression so that I can hear every little note and bring them forward. And so then, typically, once I've done that, it's really easy to find its spot in the mix. And I find more times than not, it doesn't need automation at all because it's just a short section, I find the spot, and it works. So that's an example of when I might use compression over automation. And third, I think that if you just kind of sit back for a second and listen to your song and try to decide, are the tones what I like? Is there the right kind of vibe? Am I hearing every note, but I just wish that it was a little bit louder or a little bit quieter? You have to really listen to the whole song and in the grand scheme of things, decide, does this section need to be more dynamic? Well, then I would automate that. I would automate either your master bus or individual tracks to come up, to go back down. You know, you sometimes have to create movement in a mix that's otherwise not there. Maybe all the tracks are super slammed and everything is squashed and you've got to automate just to give it some movement and some feeling. So I would say if you take anything from this video, take this. Listen to your song in a whole. Does it feel right? Does it move you? Does it take you somewhere? If you're wanting the choruses to explode, do they really pop? Do they really hit you? What do you need to do in your song with all your tracks to create the dynamic vibe that you're going for? And that, I think, will help you decide, does this thing need to be compressed more, or does it already sound and act the way I want it to act, and I just need to change its volume up or down depending on the section of the song? I think that's really it, guys. I think that there is no right answer. And that's one of my favorite things about music, production, being a songwriter, a producer, an engineer. There is no right or wrong when it comes to this stuff. This is an art. And I might paint with a certain kind of brush, and you might paint with a completely different kind of brush. You might splatter paint, whereas I'm doing little strokes like I'm the Karate Kid or something. The point is, it's art. So this is just me helping you to think through, to know how to use the tools, to know what you should be listening to, listening for, and hopefully this helps you become a better engineer. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next video. If you like this video, then click that like button, I appreciate it, and subscribe to the channel and help support Sidoti Sound, and click that bell if you want to be notified when I release new videos. And of course, you can find me on all sorts of social media, so be sure to check that out. If you'd like to work with me on an upcoming project, then make sure to visit SidotiSound.com for more information. All right, guys, thanks a lot.